Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I'm a paramedic in a place that has some HOAs and apartment complexes. We hate responding to the apartment complexes because there is nothing but assigned parking and no fire zones. Basically, if we can't find a space to fit in, we have to block the road. My agency also uses first responder vehicles and ambulances. The first responder, as implied, usually arrives first, so we do our best to leave room for the ambulance to fit in. We get a call at the apartment complex. I'm a first responder. As I pull up to the address by some miracle, there is a spot only 2 apartments away. Great, I can leave the road clear for ambulance. As soon as I park, this guy comes out and screams, "I can't park there." I do the "are you serious" look and just say medical emergency. He says he doesn't care and I can't park there. Keep in mind my vehicle has enough lights to make a Christmas tree jealous. I just grab my stuff, lock the vehicle, and keep going. He's screaming he's going to call the cops and I tell him they are already on the way. They respond to medical emergencies. Cop gets there while I'm in with a patient and tells him basically to pound sand. The cop enters the apartment and then this guy really goes full-blown entitled. He enters the apartment and comes into the room where I'm treating the patient. He starts ranting and raving how I have to move my vehicle. I look at the cop and say, "Get him out of here." The cop then seals his fate. She asks the patient if she wants this person removed from her apartment and did she ever give consent for him to enter. The patient's response, "Get him out. He's trespassing." The cop gives him one last chance and tells him to leave or he will be arrested. He doubles down. "I'm on the HOA board. I can go where I please." At this point, backup is called. The cop at least manhandles him out of the room. The ambulance arrives with PT backup and they get him out of the apartment so he can safely remove the patient. Not entirely sure what happened next as I was in the back of the ambulance, but when I got out, one of the officers approached and said, "Sorry, but we need another bus." We had to tase him. Policy for PD is if they tase someone, they have to be transported to the hospital by ambulance to the hospital, as the taser spikes have to be surgically removed due to the barbs on them. We wait for the second ambulance and they take him and I go back in service. Found out a few weeks later he was charged with trespassing, assaulting an officer, resisting arrest, interference with government administration, aka interfering with the scene of an emergency, and all over a parking space that I would have been in for all of 20 minutes if he hadn't created problems. I can only assume he took a plea deal as I was never called to testify. So, I'm at a theme park and I'm a full-time wheelchair user who cannot walk or stand. I won't name the park. As soon as the management found out, they were angry and more than rectified the situation. But the story is funny in my opinion. It happened a few years ago. So one of the rides is in a building and has an area outside of the entrance for push, chairs, and those strollers people bring to theme parks that pull all their stuff and older kids and so on about to be left there as they aren't allowed in the building. My friend and I head to the entrance and this young employee comes to me and says, "You just leave your wheelchair there." I look at him and my friend is about to say something and I catch their eye and wink. I wheel over to the area and said there was my brakes on. My friend cottons on and comes and stands next to me. The worker comes over and says, "You can go in now." Seeing me not moving, I reply, "How?" He told me to put my wheelchair here. He, not seeing what is happening, replies, "Yes. So you need to leave it here and then go in and get it after." I asked him how that will work and he sort of blinks at me confused, then walks over to a guest who has asked for help. Another worker, older, who has like team leader/supervisor type phasing on his badge, comes over. The guy who has told me to sit there is still talking to another guest, and the older worker comes over and asks if I'm okay. I explained that the guy had told me to sit here in my chair, and so I did. And then he told me to hit into the right butt, leave him my chair here, and now I was confused as I can't walk or stand. This worker is mortified and tells me this is obviously not the park rules and how no one is asked to leave their wheelchair there if they don't want to, and how I'm allowed in with my chair. The first worker comes over and the supervisor/team leader asks him what he is on about and how he can tell wheelchair users to do this and so on. The younger guy said he was told to tell people they could leave their wheelchairs there, and we work out he has gotten him wires crossed, and that some people will ask if they can leave their wheelchairs there ambulatory and use them for when they get tired, and that's fine. But not to tell everyone in a wheelchair to leave their chairs there. The guy realizes his mistake, and then realizes what I'd said about how I meant to go in means that I can't stand or walk, what he has implied and so on, and is mortified now, apologizing over and over. I explained how it's okay, and I'm glad he has realized what he said wasn't okay, but I can see how he got confused, and turns out he's very new. I head on to the ride, then as I exit, the supervisor comes over and refunds us our park entry tickets and has food and shop vouchers for myself and my friend. I explained how they didn't need to do this, and how I'm just glad the new guy found out his misunderstanding was me, who found it funny and had a bit of fun over someone else who took offense and got angry and so on, which I guess is why I got the free stuff. My mom had a fairly consistent habit of gossiping and sharing quite personal information around. We knew she was doing it, but she would adamantly deny having ever done such a thing. I wish I could remember what she did that finally made me snap. It can't even have been that important. It was just the millionth time, and for once I wanted her to admit what she had done and know that we knew too. So we set up this thing. My friend Jane and I approached my mom and told her that Jane was pregnant. She wasn't ready to tell her mom yet, and she was really worried what people would think about her having a baby so young. She didn't want anyone to know yet, so it had to be top secret. Having set the trap, I figured within a few weeks or so, I would have some evidence we could use, but I was so wrong. The very next day, my sister, grandma, and neighbor all asked me how my young pregnant friend was doing. When I was asked by a lady who worked at the supermarket that same day, I figured this had gone far enough. I went home to confront my mom, only to have my dad ask how Jane was doing. I confronted my mom right there in front of my dad, which is when she started with the usual, "I would never do that. They must have heard from someone else." You know, that kind of routine. I explained very shortly and clearly that we had fed her a lie to see how far it spread, and the reaction was glorious. My mom's mouth fell open and she just had nothing to say at all. My dad, on the other hand, fell back on a sofa roaring with laughter, bemoaning the fact that he hadn't thought of this years ago. It was a moment I will treasure forever, and the point was thoroughly made. Now that my mom was aware of what had happened, I was able to satisfy all further inquiries towards my friend's health with a true story. My mom's audience for any further gossip was somewhat reduced. Hello everyone. This story is somewhat fresh and I'm still smirking when I remember it, so I decided to share. Some background: I, 27 female, work in IT, and I'm a well-respected and known member of the IT party circle where I live. So to speak, I'm not jaw-dropping, but people know me, and I have a very good reputation. One of the things is that I got to the point in my career when I wanted to give back, so I started mentoring others. Mostly I mentored adults or those who were closer to me in age. Career advice? how to apply for different exchange programs that can boost their professional growth and improve their speaking and writing skills. You know, the usual. But I always was one up for the challenge and decided to try and mentor kids. It's not a secret that IT and STEM are increasingly popular right now, and more people want to get into the field. Therefore, there are myriad of boot camps, hackathons, and mentoring programs for all ages. So I signed up for one such program as a mentor. Teach kids how to code with blocks, tell them what AI is, and how to develop an MVP. It sounds more complicated than it might look at first glance, especially when you're an educated professional with a degree, explaining concepts that are rather complicated to children who may have less than 1 out of 50 of your tech knowledge. I must add that participation in the SIP program gives kids credits and can help them get into better schools or even be eligible for some university scholarships later in life. So only pros, if you ask me. The only thing is that they must upload their MVP project to the site before the deadline. I was assigned 2 teams: primary, early middle schoolers, Team A, and high schoolers, Team B. Both had 5 members, and the youngest in Team A was 8 years old. I thought, oh my god, that will be tough. Thinking about Team A and how I'm up for a tough time. Also, since they are so young, the parents of the kids must observe Team A meetings and my lessons. And parents equal problems. Ironically, despite my worries, even with help from the parents, the kids in Team A were doing great. But the same can't be said about Team B. A little side note, with my mentees I have 2 rules. 1. At least 1 meeting per week, at least 50% of the group must be present. 2. Communication. When I type something like tasks to do or reply to a question asked before, I asked my mentees to respond, not even text. A thumbs up emoji will also suffice. We all know that read status doesn't mean much when you can accidentally open an app for a second and swipe it to clear RAM on the phone. So, Team A attended all the meetings and responded to my assignments. There was a curriculum provided by a program to follow, and they were very receptive overall. When Team B started okay, but then started not showing on meetings and leaving assignments read but unresponded. I understand they have a lot on their plate, exams are no joke, but they disregarded my time, which I will not be okay with. I have a job to do, and mentoring in that program was 100% volunteering, and there was no payment for the mentors. There was, however, a very strict deadline, the middle of April, when their MVBs must be loaded onto the website for later judgments. I even went pissed. I'm a professional first and an angry lady second. So I wrote multiple messages asking for updates on the project, with warning that the end deadline is April 15th, don't miss it. After one such message, the so-called leader of Team B, Sam, wrote to me this. Hi OB, I know that you probably mean well, but you only bother the team with those deadline messages. Can't you chill out? When we need you, we will contact you and all. Just get off our hair and let us do our job. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but it is what it is. After I read that message, I was like, what the hell? But I did respond that I would stop messaging if that caused tension within the team. Though, the deadline is still on the 15th, and the site would reject any application that was uploaded after. Just stop, okay? Said Sam to that, so I decided, okay, I'm washing my hands out of this. Cue malicious compliance. Since that message, I haven't written anything to Team B. I had scheduled no meetings, updates, or checkups about the curriculum, their understanding. And definitely not a written reminder of the deadline once. Deadline came, Team A uploaded their project with no issues, and their parents even bought me a nice box of chocolate as a thank you gesture. Just like the deadline came in when Team B started bombarding chat, asking me to help because something is wrong with the site. We can't upload our project. I entered the chat and said yes, it will not upload. No, it is not an issue with the site. The deadline has passed. So if you try to upload, it will only show you an error message. I warned you kids. No extra credits, no nothing. The rules of that program are simple, but they are hard no exceptions ones. Team B tried to blame me, saying that as a mentor, it was my job to ensure they would succeed. I reminded them that my job as a mentor is to provide support and guidance, keep track of their progress and remind them of the deadline, which all of the above, they, via Sam, asked me not to. And since I respected their boundaries, I did exactly what they had requested. They can sulk as much as they want. I have all our communication in writing, so they don't have a leg to stand on when trying to accuse me of sabotaging them in the program. Tough luck, kids. I currently work in HR for a company that has been mistreating their employees and frequently talks down to them, speaking to them as if they are not smart enough to understand what she's saying and as though they are beneath her. It's only been about 6 months since I started here and I noticed it pretty quickly. After I mentioned it to the most guilty manager, I began getting talked down to. At one time after I called out sick, I got reprimanded, stating that I had to be on site whenever my manager was not. This was not the first time it was being mentioned to me though, so I can't be sick if she's out. They couldn't find anything else to fuss at me about, so that was it. Over the past few months, I've built a relationship with the hourly employees, which are in a union. They tell me about whispers around the plant, future plans, who's thinking about quitting, family stuff, really just whatever they want to talk about. Recently, I landed a great job which I start in a couple of weeks. I found out that my manager is going to be out of town the week before I'm supposed to start my new job. My plan was to work up until I start a new job, but then I was talked down to again by this same toxic manager. So I went into her office and told her that I know she isn't supposed to be at work on XYZ date, but she would have to be since one of us has to be on site, and I will no longer work here then. Needless to say, she was pretty upset that she had to change her plans, and I've been getting the evil eye from her since I dropped my notice. I've been hearing her complaining to co-workers about how she had to cancel her trip, but she's been extremely nice to my face and hasn't talked down to me once.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.